Hello DevOps people! Even though it's a bit more silent today, it's still me, Jochen. Welcome to my stream, where I do DevOpsy stuff that only IT people and my therapist will ever understand. Um, Pretzel.rocks, the app that I had been using to have a bit of background music, seems to be not working today. So you'll be stuck with me alone without any soothing sounds in the background. I do apologize. Um, let's get started. Um, so here's my plan for my session last week, where I took a middleman based website, turned it into a Docker container, and then launched this container on Kontena, which is a how do I describe it? It's a container orchestration platform, so similar to in purpose to Kubernetes, but much less complex, and that's what I like about Container. And we are running a small container platform with just a few compute nodes, and I launched this middleman website on our platform without any issues, quite surprisingly. Um, so I was pretty happy last week to end the stream uh, within time and with a successful and finished project. If you like, you can still watch the recording on Twitch, where it'll be for a while, and here on YouTube, where it'll be for a longer time. That lets me close this issue. If you're new to the stream, welcome. First of all, I'm happy to have you here. And just to give you a short explanation, I'm maintaining all my agendas for my live stream on GitHub in the full stack live repository. So I simply create GitHub issues with a checklist of the things that I want to achieve during my live stream. And on top of that, it also gives you an opportunity to write comments and give me feedback on things. Since this session has been done and didn't receive any feedback, I'll close it and switch to the one for today. Of course, while this stream is running, sorry, I invite everyone who has feedback, who has a question, who doesn't understand what I'm doing, to pop into the chat, where I'll be happy to read your responses, and where I in turn will respond to your questions and suggestions. So feel free to give me a shout in the chat while the stream is running. And after the stream, as always, I'll post the recording to my YouTube channel. With these housekeeping things out of the way, let's get going with today's topics. I'll simply resume where I left off last time. So now we have a website that gets Dockerized every time I push to master, because the image gets built on Travis CI. And what I had to do manually in my last session was then deploy the newly built image on our container platform, which only requires a simple command, container stack upgrade. No, it's a container stack deploy, actually. And Container will then check if all the images are current, and if they are not, it'll download them and restart the containers. So while this is not very complicated, it's an additional step we can save. And that's why my first goal for today will be to automate this deployment. So as soon as CI has gone through and built and pushed the container image, I'd like it to issue the stack deploy command itself, so that the website, the running website, gets automatically updated and restarted. And if we will still have time after that, I'll go and look at the topic of SSL, because yeah, every newly launched website today should support SSL, and this one is no exception. Okie dokie. But first of all, let's have some tea. Alrighty, so let's switch to the terminal, log into my development machine, and go to the website. Here we are. And here is the Travis configuration. It's nothing complicated. Since the website is built on Middleman, a static website generator written in Ruby, we are using Ruby as the CI language, as well as the container base image, by the way. And we'll simply run first bundle install and then rake, because that's what Travis CI does by default if it encounters a Ruby application. And let's take a look at what rake will do. Rake by default will run the test task, and test in turn will run first the build task, which generates the website, and then the spec task, which will actually run RSpec to run a few tests on the generated pages. What I'm missing though is the build of the image. Didn't we do that last time? We might not have. So CI integration seems to be missing completely. Okay, so I remembered that wrong, but yeah, the git log should show these things. Yeah, no Docker stuff at all. So, time to create a new branch. I'll call it Travis deploy. And we'll need to run two things for deployment. As you have seen probably, Travis at the moment deploys the website to Heroku, and we'll change that. So what I need to run after running the tests is to run docker build and docker push. That way we will get the updated image, and we'll probably use a script here. On the other hand, it would be more transparent to simply run run single commands here, so it's not hidden. Yeah, this should be okay. So we'll run bundle exec rake test, and then bundle exec. No, it's first rake build. And even that isn't necessary because rake test implies building the website. And we'll remove the deployment altogether, and we'll replace it later with the necessary steps. So this is very rudimentary and should work, but one of my mottos is verify your assumptions. So let's see if this actually works. And since my memory often fails me, let's take a look at the Travis documentation. And see if our stuff here runs, and we'll probably also need things like Docker. Let me see. Is this databases? Let's see. First, Ruby. That's all very special stuff, I guess. There's nothing I need to take care of, I think. Then let's search for Docker using Docker in builds. So we need a services Docker and sudo required. Okie dokie. Let's put this here and services right underneath. And then under script we'll simply run bundle exec rake test. Okay, that looks good. Slayer Darth, hi, welcome to the stream. Good to have you back. How you doing? Thanks for the swift reply to your email. Okay, so yeah, I think I know what email you're referring to. I'm pretty good myself, thank you. I am about to go on holidays next week, so I guess there will be no stream on Thursday. And So this will be my last stream for a few weeks, I guess. I'm pretty happy to go on vacations. I know you love unusual requests, so could you say what worked and what didn't in your application? Uh, are you sure you want to discuss that on stream? I guess I'll get back to you in private. But that's very courageous of you. Um, so, okay. Travis should be running a test already. And it's just busy installing all the bundler gems, or gem bundles, or whatever. By the way, I find it really weird not to have music on the stream today. I'll check if I can either get Pretzel working or look for some replacement. Obviously not anything related to your address, yeah. Since although I like doing things unprepared, that was so far limited to tech stuff and not including HR topics, which I really not, which I rather keep in private. Okay, Mac break tells me I should take a break. I guess I'll disable it for a while. It's a nice little app, by the way, that reminds you to take breaks and even has some nifty exercises that keep you from getting rusty and might even help avoiding things like RSI and things like that. So here we go. It did do bundle install and it ran the tests, and I guess it also started Docker. Did it? Mm-hmm. All kinds of stuff that I don't need, like databases and good heavens, Elasticsearch. Here we go, service Docker start. Mm-hmm. Yep. Docker. Okay. Fine. So far so good. Didn't screw up in the first 5 minutes. Now, if tests are good, we can deploy using another script. So let's go back to documentation, deployments and uploads, script. I use provider script and then I use a single script statement. I wonder if it does allow multiple steps though, which would be nice. We'll give it a try. Deploy provider script and script. Let's start with bundle exec docker build. which should run fine. For Docker push, I'll need my first credentials, and we'll have to deal with that later. But let's start with that. Yeah, send me just another email, Slayer. Normally, I don't give a lot of feedback on applications, but I'll be happy to do that in your case. Good. So, I have a hard time focusing today. It's probably time that I get my vacation. Let's see. We had another job running here. So as you can see, I haven't yet limited the deployment phase to the master branch, which allows me to test these steps during development. And even if I upload a new image and even if I trigger the deployment of the image later, it won't have huge consequences because the production website is still running on Heroku. And only when I have the deployment in place and maybe have SSL configured as well, I'll switch DNS over to our Kontena based website application. However, I might have to switch first because Let's Encrypt might require the domain already pointing to the final location in order to work at all and to provision an SSL certificate. We'll see about that when we get there. So far, I'm still waiting on the new CI job to start. See, had I brought over my new MIDI keyboard up from the living room, I could at least do some background music while we're waiting. But that'll have to wait until after my vacation, I guess. And you'll get some live music as well. Oh god, no, that was a joke. It's enough that I embarrass myself doing IT stuff here. I don't have to fail as an entertainer as well. Come on, Travis. Get going. That's always the main problem if you depend on external services, that these dependencies might break. So meanwhile, I am perfectly able to answer questions from the chat. If there's anything you'd like me to talk about or to answer, hit me. Oh, here we go. But still ask away. That's this nifty follow button that I just discovered recently. Now the test. Which also will be run again when building the Docker image. No, only the build will be run for running the Docker image, I think. Which is fair. The tests run longer than the build. Okay. Drum roll. Skipping deployment because this branch is not permitted. Travis, deploy. I guess default settings apply here. And so the documentation only says, okay, if I want to restrict it, I need this on branch master, of course, but that doesn't explain why it skips the deployment here. So I guess I'll brute force it by saying on, and then branch Travis deploy. I'll just have to remember to remove that or to change that later. And I'll have to remember that I need a Docker login later as well. I think I've solved that already in another CI config that I can simply copy. Okay, so save. Hi, Quick Draw. How are you doing? Good to have you back. Hope you're having a good time. So let's switch to the new job that hopefully has already launched. Oh, I'm fine. As I already mentioned, I'm about to go on holidays. That's always reason to be happy. Let me see if I can get Pretzel to run. Maybe a little work this time. Ah, look at that. It actually does. So much better. You thought I had already left. No, this week I'm trying to tie up all loose ends, and I'll be off start of next week. It always takes its time today. So tomorrow I'll have a call with the CTO of Kontena, because I'd like to know what their strategy is. Interestingly, they recently launched their own Kubernetes distribution, and it looks like as if they are jumping ship with their own little orchestration software. And if that's the case, I'll end up running Kubernetes after all, I guess. While Kontena is working fine, I'm not particularly interested in launching a new product on a platform that is doomed to be legacy from the start. I'm really looking forward to the call tomorrow. The guys at Kontena, they're all Finnish, I guess, are great guys and girls. I had lots of conversations with them on their community Slack channel. And yeah, all I need to make solid decisions is to know a little bit more about their strategy. If they're actually saying, okay, we've done what we can do with Kontena, but if we continue adding stuff, we'll end up with a clone of Kubernetes. That won't make much sense from a strategy standpoint. And I could understand if they said, okay, there is only one system, and that's K8s, and so that's what they are going to do. But yeah, that's only assumptions right now, and I'll be able to confirm or confirm them or throw them away tomorrow. So depending on the outcome of the call, there might be much more Kubernetes content on this channel. Okay, where are we? Scroll to end of log. Okay, so deploying application. Script failed. That's a pity. Oh god. Of course. So Elixir next. For all your dreams to come true. Yeah, I guess we'll see. While I wish I could dive into all these new technologies, programming languages and things like that, because I love learning. I love to get new skills and extend what I am able to do. I still need to pay for the roof above my head and that of those of my family, so I might have to put a little more time into actual work stuff, which is not Elixir at the moment. We'll see. If I have used the Phoenix framework yet, no I haven't, since I haven't done anything in Elixir. I didn't get to check out Phoenix as well. It is a purely Elixir framework, right? It's the Rails for Elixir, isn't it? Oh, I have to update my bot here. The issues URL isn't up to date anymore. Can do that while we are waiting for it's not moobot, is what's it? IO? Oh, come on. .tv, okay. Where I'm going to go on holiday? Yeah, you can ask. I won't answer. No. We're going to a small island in the German North Sea. So it's north of Holland and Germany, and it's a nice little quiet island where only the locals have cars. Everyone else needs to leave their cars before hopping on a ferry, and so it's great for doing cycling and hiking. Well, hiking is a bit much because the island is pretty much flat as a pancake, and no, it's not the UK. The UK is not north of Germany, so yeah, we'll spend a few quiet weeks there. Nice. They have transferred my stuff. Current subscription, extra free week. Yeah, and now let's change the commands. Here we are. This is full stack live. Okay. Let's see where we are. CI job is running. Now the island is called Borkum. Well, can you look it up? Can't we? Since we are waiting anyway. Here we are. So this is Germany. This is the Netherlands, Holland, and so it's actually north of the Netherlands. However, it belongs to Germany, and it's a bitsy tiny island with a few people and a few sheep and beaches. That's pretty much it. Oh, how to use your these tags? Yeah, I do know how to use these tags because that's actually apparently taken right from Rails and the Rubis library. These tags mean, first of all, the tags with the percent signs means, well, while this is a text file, probably HTML, these tags contain code. So that's something that should be executed. So what Phoenix does, apparently completely identical to Rails, is execute the code that it is in these tags. So you can run an expression in there, you can run conditional statements, you can run loops and all these things by putting the while tag on top and the end or whatever tag at the end of the loop, and then it'll repeat this block of within the template. If you want to have the output of your code appear as content of the file that you are rendering, so if you want in the context of a web application, if you want to have the output of the code appear on your page, then you add the equal sign in front, which means not only execute this code, but also take its output and insert it into the page. Yeah, so it executes user.fname, which will provide you with the first name of the user, I guess. And would you leave the equal sign out, you won't see any effect, because it simply executes the command, this method or function, and it will throw away the output. It'll just evaluate the expression and that's it. But since you have the equal sign in there, it'll take the output and insert it or replace the tag with the output of the code. Of course, now you need to tell me why I might have saved your life with this explanation, because it doesn't seem that tremendous to me. Ah, why? I hate when this happens. Deploying application. Your Ruby version is... Oh, I had this problem before. Deployment uses other Ruby versions as the test phase. And there is documentation about this. A lot of text incoming for user. From users too. Okay, so you are iterating over an array, I guess, and then over the array of addresses. And then you'll output the ID, first name, last name, phone, email, country, and then you use a helper function that's completely identical to Rails. Are you sure that you're not programming a Rails application? Link show to testable path, and then end, and you can see, oh, I see what you mean. The for tag here doesn't need the equal sign. Because in that case you just want to execute the code for the for loop, but the for itself doesn't do any output anyway, so the for statement as well as the end statements don't need equal signs. All that needs equal signs are the method calls on your user object and the link helper function that returns a complete a href tag and stuff like that. You have 2 users, but in your table you get user 1122. Yeah, because well, that depends on what your objects or these users and addresses arrays are, because you have nested the address loop within the users loop, and I'm not sure if that's what you want to do. Yeah, it does look like ERB, doesn't it? I guess I can only assume there has been a port of ERB to Elixir. So, well, I can show you what I mean. So first of all, let's jump in here. So what you want to do is do your for loop without the equal signs, and then you can use something like this, and here you want to have the output of these method calls actually replace or get where these tags are in your template, something like this, and then the end that closes the for loop doesn't need an equal sign again. So the question is, where does address come from? Isn't address another attribute of your user? Why are there 2 separate arrays? One for users and one for addresses. There must be some kind of connection, isn't there? Hey Eric, how you doing? World Cup thoughts? Well, yeah, obviously I should probably root for Germany, but I don't. And I actually didn't get to watch the match. I'm not the most interested person in football or soccer. However, I follow European or World Cups. Since I was on a birthday party on Sunday, I didn't get to watch the Germany game, the Germany match. So no thoughts from me at the moment, except that I was quite surprised to see them lose to Mexico. Okay, so you connected them with associations. Still, I think since they are connected with associations, if you have modeled the association, in your code, so if you told the application that these are connected, you'll probably have an actual address method in there, which probably gets auto-generated. Now I can't only talk for Rails, but I'm pretty sure they built something similar now that I've seen this, that you actually at least get a user addresses method. So if you have multiple addresses per user, you could do something like this and say, okay, here are the countries, and we'll have another for loop where you take the user.addresses method call, which will provide you with all the addresses that are associated with the user. And then you can do something like this, and now you'll need the equal sign again, address country, and you get a list of countries. So if we do an indentation right, this should look like this. And for the end, we don't need an equal sign. So I guess to make it complete, and it might be the case that you don't need the @ sign here. I'm not sure if the type is implicit here. I'm learning Elixir on the fly here. If you do the tag without the equal sign, you get no errors. No, the code gets executed. So if I take away this equal sign here, it'll still execute address.country. It'll call the function, and there will be it will get a string back, I guess, and the template engine now asks itself, what should I do with this string? And since there is no equal sign, it'll simply shrug and throw it away. However, if you add the equal sign here, this location where this tag is will be replaced with the string. So that is a way of loading it in without duplicating your table. Yeah, you don't need to get an array of all the users and then try and get another array of their addresses, because that simply doesn't make much sense. Yeah, so if you do, you have to put the HTML tags at the right position. So you'll probably have something like this. A table should be created anyway, even if it's empty. And then for each user, we'll start with a row. And outside of the user loop, no, it's inside the user loop here, we'll have the rows. And then you want to have the different user attributes in separate columns, and then something like this. Another column for the countries, and then let's simply start by making something like a comma separated list, and then we'll close the third column and the row, and then we're good. something like that. So Eric, you asked what's my Rails history. I started Rails programming about 3 or 4 years ago, because my company needed a user interface for our hosting platform, and I decided to build it with Rails. And since then I've been doing Rails development with this single application basically. And now I'm about to start a new one because we are planning to launch a new product which needs its own UI. So that'll be the second Rails application that I'll build for production use. Other than that, I'm mostly well, first of all, the managing director of our company, but then by trade I'm a systems engineer, or system admin, or DevOps engineer, whatever you want to call it. So if it doesn't output your countries there, there might be another logical error, so that for example there are no addresses in your array and the loop doesn't even iterate for a single time. Apart from Rails, I've been doing all kinds of software since 1984, when I started to learn BASIC on my VIC-20. If I have any female relatives who want to learn Linux, well, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I might introduce her to system stuff eventually. And for the user, it has to be, if not, it won't even create a TR for each user. It's very awesome. Okay, so you actually need the percent sign, the equal sign. That's strange, but yeah, there might be some subtle differences. I'm not sure. And you can make a table with 100 users just from a few lines. Yeah, that's the magic of loops. Okay, back to my own project here. Yeah, the Ruby version problem. So deploying. Let me see, where did I have this already? There was a project that where I had to deal with this. I guess the actual dashboard application. Let me just switch team sessions here. Oh no, I'm deploying to Heroku here, so that's not it. Then it was the Docker image. Here we go. So deploy needs this part here in front, then it'll work. And I need to skip cleanup. No, I don't, I think. Do I? I don't think so. No donate button. No, there isn't any. That's something I need to get sorted, don't I? Since I'm not primarily doing, or not at all doing this for donations and things like that, I actually haven't spent the time of getting these things running. But since it's always a nice gesture to get a subscription or get donations, I'll take care of that. It's just another opportunity to have nice interactions here. You promised $100 to the person who showed you how associations work. Well, there's a challenge. Oh, it's Nar. Hi, how are you doing? Welcome back to what is now called Full Stack Live. Okay, focus, man. Here we go. I'm fine, Nar. How are you? See, that's the downside to having this background music. It covers all the times where you otherwise would have awkward silences, and where I would have a reminder, which would remind me to get back on my stuff here. But we're fine, aren't we? Knowing front-end side and web development is opportunities and more possible to get a job. I'm actually not up to date with how the front-end development job market looks like at the moment, but I'm pretty sure that it's a good way to earn a living. And everyone needs a website. Or do you need to know backhand also? Not necessarily. That's why these areas are separate in the first place, because you can have people who specialize in one thing and others who specialize in the other. Of course, knowing a bit about both, or even knowing a lot about both, will increase your chances. But since you are, I guess, at the moment more on your way on learning these things, I would recommend focusing on one thing, and if front-end development is what you like, focus on that. You won't diminish your chances significantly. Yeah, what Quickdraw says, especially web agencies who are doing contract work, will have separate positions for these. If you are a freelancer who tries to be a more or less of a jack of all trades, you might have to at least dabble with both sides, but no need, I think. So, what happened here? Deploying. Now we have Ruby version 2.4.1. Jeez. You know what? Instead of using rake for this, I'll simply run the commands directly. So docker build and then the image. Latest, and the image is this part, and then this part, and latest. Otherwise I'll be debugging Travis issues all day here. Yes, of course, above every front-end and back-end developer you need a project manager, of course. Someone has to take everything and try and get some value out of it. In other words, mess everything up. Good old product manager bashing. Quick draw. It looks to me as if you need to get a proper plan for what you are actually trying to achieve here, because I don't know. You probably want a table for all users, but if you have multiple addresses for each user, where should they go? Do you want them to appear in a single column? Do you want to maybe nest a table inside a table? So inside a column, basically, just as you have nested the loops. I guess that's the question that you need to answer first, and then it's easy. So, for example, if you want to have a table of users with a row for each user, and then in this row there is a column that lists all the countries. You can list them separated by commas, or you could nest another table in there, but that won't make much sense. If you want to have some kind of list, you'll probably use a UL tag and do it there. And you'll still need something like where are we? Here we are. So if you want to have a loop, a list here, we'll start the UL outside of the loop, so you don't depend on the fact that the loop iterates at all. If you don't have any addresses, the loop won't run, and so you'll get an empty UL block, and then you can simply do the li tags around your country strings. And that way you'll get a column with a list of all the addresses inside, if there are any addresses for this user. If not, you'll get a UL element followed by a /UL element, which won't display anything, I guess. And if you want to be completely anal about this, you can intersperse some conditions and say, okay, I'll use this, or I'll enter this block only. So we'll probably have the column anyway, and then you can do an if statement if there are any addresses in the first place. Only then add the UL tags and stuff, and then you need another end statement here. I don't know how to force syntax highlighting. So what I would do in Rails is I would use if user addresses count is at least 1. No idea how to write this in Elixir though. So the TD with the country is there, but it has 2 countries in each. So much. I would look at how you get your arrays. So the user array seems to be fine, but I'm not sure how you get to the addresses array in the first place. Because these addresses, as I already mentioned, should be some sub set of all addresses, because it should only be the addresses of the particular user you're looking at. Okay. And this time it actually ran. It built a container and tagged it. So now we can go ahead and push it. So what I need to do is log in. Pushing to registry. I've already done this, so I should be able to copy this from the OpenSSH image I've already built. Interestingly enough, here I actually run rake push, and rake does all the stuff, and it works. But we can do this separately as well. So we can do this here. And then we can run docker push, and how does it work? I just push the image because the image itself contains the URL. So we can take this one here. So what I'll have to do is to tell Travis my Docker username and my Docker password, and then this push should work as well. And in the end, I'll have to do the Kontena deploy step, but I guess that's for another time because I'm running out of time for today. It's almost 5 o'clock here, and I don't want to go over time. Mostly because I need to go to the loop. So deployment on Kontena will be similar to this because well, as far as I have found out, I'll have to have the Kontena command line tool installed. That's something that I can do in a before step, and then I'll simply execute the Kontena command line deploy command using a URL and probably another key that I also need to store for Travis, and that's basically it. I'm not sure if I'll keep that for my next session, which will be after my holidays, I guess, because yeah, I don't think I'll do a session on Thursday just before leaving, and so I'll do that when I'm back from my vacation. Ah, awesome, Krikdor. I'm happy that I could at least help a bit. And yeah, I think you're pretty close to getting it running the way you like it. Alright, boys and girls, anything else you'd like to discuss? There are still 5 or so minutes that I can that I'm available to you. It's not like looping inside a loop, it is looping inside a loop. And the question is, what is the list for the nested loop? In my case here, it is the addresses of the user, which is the loop variable of the outside loop. So for each iteration of the outside loop, I'll get a different user, and then, of course, I'll get this particular user's addresses. In your case, user and addresses are completely disconnected. I assume they are disconnected. So it'll take a user and loop over the address list. Then it take the next user, iterate over the same address list, and for the third user as well. So you'll always end up with the same list of addresses because they are not in any way connected to your user. Even though one user might have one address, another user might have 2, and another user might even have no address at all. And that's why you need to use the association in some way, as I am doing here by calling the addresses function on the user object here. And I feel better not having this add here, because I think user is just an object on which I call the addresses method, which will retrieve all the user's addresses, and on this list of addresses I should be able to call something like count or length and evaluate that. But maybe I'll take this as an opportunity to take a look at Elixir and Phoenix, so I'll be able to make a more informed example here. To be honest, loops are always tricky, especially when you're only starting, because yeah, wrapping your head around nested loops is just one of the common challenges you have as a programmer, and different languages use different approaches to loops, so yeah, that's something every programmer, every software developer needs to learn, and it's hard at the beginning, and then you'll end up doing it without thinking. The amount of times you crashed your browser by not stopping sending user accounts and things like that, yeah, I can imagine. So page size of 500 megabyte and growing. All right, so everyone, thanks for being with me here. I had a good time, and I hope I'll have a good time on my holidays. I'll be back in late July with another Full Stack Live. Instead of what? I equals I plus 1 instead of the shorthand. Did I equals I? Okay, yeah, that'll skip a few numbers there. So yeah, until I'm back, don't forget to follow the stream so that you get a notification when I'm back. And if there is any feedback you'd like to leave me, if there is anything you'd like to add, you can go to my Full Stack Live repository and simply leave a comment under today's plan. As always, I'll try and upload my recording later, and I'll link it in the issue description here. Don't forget to follow the stream. It'll really help me grow an audience and help more people. And so until in a few weeks' time, cheers.